Ciao a tutti and welcome to our Italian class. Today we're going to learn the third conjugation. We're going to be learning how to conjugate partire. And partire means to leave the country, to leave the city, to go away. Okay, for example, I left Moscow on Friday. So we are learning different conjugations on my YouTube channel, Insta Language Online. We have already learned the first conjugation and the second conjugation. I hope you remember the endings because the endings are different for each conjugations. So I made it in red for you. O, I, e, llamo, ite, ono. Those are the endings for the third conjugation. For example, partire or dormire. Those guys are the third conjugation. Let's look at the forms. Io parto, I leave. Tu parti, you leave. Lui, lei, he or she, parte, he leaves, she leaves. Noi partiamo, we leave. Voi partite, you leave. Loro partono, they leave, they go away. Okay. O, I, e, llamo, ite, ono. Close your eyes. O, I, e, llamo, ite, ono. Vice versa. Ono, ite, llamo, e, I, o. You have to remember the endings. You have to remember the endings. One more time. You have to remember the endings. Okay, so now you know how to conjugate il verbo, the verb partire, parto, parti, parte, partiamo, partite, partono. I'm going to give you a minute to conjugate il verbo dormire, to sleep. Dormire, dormire. Pause this video, conjugate it. Okay, now let's check it. So, dormire has dorm as a root. So we take dorm and we have to add o, I, e, llamo, ite, ono. Dorm. Dormo, dormi, dorme. Dormiamo, dormite, dormono. One more time. Dormo, dormi, dorme. Dormiamo, dormite, dormono. Molto bene. So, we just looked at the third conjugation. Partire, dormire. Those verbs are regular. That means everything is all right with them. Take the verb, take the ending, and conjugate it as much as you want. But I want to give you a very important verb. The verb that you're probably gonna use all the time. And that's the verb capire. And capire means to understand. Give me a second. All right, thank you for giving me a little bit of time. I wrote for you il verbo capire. Capire, understand. So I want to introduce you il verbo capire, the verb to understand. I also want you to pay attention that we still have the endings o, I, e, llamo, ite, ono, just in the forms of io, tu, lui, lei, and loro. We also have sk. Let's read it. Io capisco. Io capisco. Capisco. I understand. Capisco. Capisci. Capisci. Capisci, you understand. Capisce, 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 lui, lei, he and she understands. Noi capiamo, capiamo, voi capite, capite, loro capiscono, capiscono. Okay, look at the forms again. Capisco, capisci, capisce, capiamo, capite, capiscono. Take a pen, take a paper, and write down the forms. And if you don't remember them, look at them again and write them down again. And write them as long until you remember them. Okay? So you have to remember them. You have to remember, this is a very important verb. It's not just the verb dormire or something. That's a very important verb. So you have to know how to conjugate it and how to write it down. So when you say I understand, you don't have to say io, because the only form of I understand is capisco. So you can say capisco, capisco, sì, capisco, capisco. Yes, I understand. And when you ask, you don't have to say tu. You can just say capisci? Do you understand? Capisci? Sì, capisco. Capisci? Sì, capisco. Or no, non capisco. I want to remind you, and we have talked about that already at our previous classes, that to make a negative sentence you have to put non in front. Non capisco. Non capisco. I don't understand. A question. Capisci? Non capisco. Let's look at another verb, which is the third conjugation, and of course you know it because it has ire in the end. Finire, finire. It's very easy to translate. To finish, to end. Finire. And the verb finire is conjugated the same way as the verb capire, and that means we have sk in the conjugation. Io finisco, tu finisci, lui lei finisce, noi finiamo, voi finite, loro finiscono. One more time. Finisco, finisci, finisce, finiamo, finite, finiscono. Please write this down. My dear friends, today we talked about the third conjugation, and we learned that the verbs with ire in the end are the verbs of the third conjugation, and we learned the endings o, I, e, iamo, ite, ono. Sometimes we have exceptions like the verbs finire, capire, and we learned that in the forms io, tu, lui, lei, and loro, they add sk in the conjugation right before the ending. This is it for today. We learned all the three conjugations on my YouTube channel, Insta Language Online. We learned how to conjugate parlare, the first conjugation. We learned how to conjugate vivere, the second conjugation. And today we learned partire, finire, capire. This is the third conjugation. At our next class, we will talk about the verbs that are exceptions, and we will take more new words because we have to speak Italian fluently. I give private classes. So you can text me at this number +1 323 910 7690, and you can ask for private classes for English, German, Spanish, Italian, Russian, French, and Portuguese. You can also send me an email, study@instalanguage.online. That's also my website, instalanguage.online, where you can find classes, flashcards, copybooks, books. I will make you speak the language, whether you want it or not. Bye!